If you're not encouraging your children to grow up and have the courage to get married and have kids, more kids than they can afford before they think they're ready, it is high time to start. It is these choices, like deleting our dating apps and quitting birth control pills and saying I do at the altar, that ultimately trickle down into the political policies that we will see save our country.
Welcome back to Gen Z Unplugged. We have some controversy we're going to go over today involving one of our very favorite speakers, Isabel Brown, who hosts the Isabel Brown Show at the Daily Wire. Isabel is outspoken about the importance of getting married young, having kids young, and all the things that lead to a really happy, fulfilling life. But she got in some hot water recently with the women on The View because of her CPAC speech, where she encouraged women to get married and have kids. And actually, it wasn't just women, it was young people in general. And I think the hosts take that out of context and say she's just speaking to women and that she's excusing men, but that really isn't the case.
Yeah, I mean, she really did get slammed by those women. It's blown up recently. It's all over social media. Isabel has now come out and, has responded to a lot of those claims that The View were talking about. And it's just very interesting because Isabel's response, she's just like a happy person.
Yeah.
So she's really not like bogged down at all by this. She's very firm in her beliefs, and like you said, she's a speaker for us. We had her at our Scottsdale Summit this past fall, and she's just a very happy person. She's not letting this get her down, and she's letting the world know that. And she's responding with clarity, with courage, and it's just not affected by it too much, which is good to see.
Totally. That's something that I think people will gloss over, so that's really important to point out. Okay, we're going to play the clip of Isabel's CPAC speech. This is from The View, so you get to hear sweet Whoopi Goldberg introing. Here, I'll go ahead and play this. This is clip one.
The Conservative Political Action Conference, known as CPAC, wrapped up this weekend, and conservative activist Isabel Brown had a message for her fellow Gen Z women, who reportedly are the least likely group in America to get married and have kids. But I want you to see this clip.
If you're not encouraging your children to grow up and have the courage to get married and have kids, more kids than they can afford before they think they're ready, it is high time to start. It is these choices, like deleting our dating apps and quitting birth control pills and saying I do at the altar, that ultimately trickle down into the political policies that we will see save our country.
Okay.
So that's what she was slammed over.
That is the big controversial statement. And we'll get into it a little bit, but at face value, I mean, encouraging families, it takes, I think, a really twisted perspective to dedicate an entire episode of your talk show to talking about something like this, and like monitoring the CPAC conference and seeing what Isabel Brown was going to say and then going after her for this. I think to do that in the first place it's unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the funny thing that Isabel pointed out is that 4 out of 5 of these View hosts are married in committed relationships. 4 out of 5 of them are mothers. So it's almost like they can be happy, they can have husbands and children, but like we can't. They're telling their young audience that it's like happiness for them but not for us type of thing. And so it's crazy that they are kind of attacking what they also have, which is strange. It's just a strange phenomenon to me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the issue that people are taking with this specifically is Isabel saying have more kids than you can afford, which is Charlie Kirk famously said that a lot before he was killed. And at face value, that kind of makes you stop in your tracks. And I think The View and a lot of the left doesn't understand what she's actually saying, because of course you shouldn't have another child who you're not going to be able to feed. That isn't prudent, that isn't responsible. You have to exercise discernment and good judgment with that sort of thing. So I think that's what we need to clear up, is that she's not saying go out there and be irresponsible. She's saying that we should have more kids than we think is feasible for us in a financial way, but sacrificing worldly pleasures, not sacrificing basic necessities.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before too. It's if you have a lot of kids, then maybe you can't go on the lavish vacation that you were once planning. So it's like sacrificing, like you said, those worldly things for the greater good of having more children, which like will always fulfill you more than the lavish vacation. And that's basically what Isabel is saying, that sacrifice is worth it for young women, for young people to realize. And she's like kind of looking out for young people by saying that too, because the world tells them that it's not worth it. But she knows, she's a mother, Isabel is, and she's experienced so much joy from her daughter. Her daughter actually came to our Scottsdale Summit as well. She's a little itty-bitty 1-year-old, but she brought her along. And a lot of women are saying now, even just on the internet, random people, that they weren't expecting motherhood to bring this level of fulfillment. But it does. And then it's almost like they're missing out if they didn't, because they've been told that it just isn't fulfilling.
Right.
So Isabel's letting them know, like, no, that's a lie, and like looking out for young people and being like, yes, this will bring you fulfillment, and you should like look for that in your life and really think about it.
Definitely. And Sunny Hostin, who's another host on the show, has some comments about the affordability that I want to address. So this is clip 2.
It's just really reckless to be suggesting that people should have children when you now know in this country there's this affordability crisis, and for a 2-person household, a married household, you need over $400,000 for childcare. Over $400,000. Most people don't make over $400,000. So she's advocating for people to be born into poverty, people not being able to feed those children, people not being able to educate those children, and people not being able to house those children at the same time when this government is cutting all of the services that would allow people to have.
Okay, so she misses the mark here, because that's not what she's advocating for. Because if you were to sit down with Isabel Brown, and this is where, like, you know, we were going to say later, but we'll just say now, Isabel asked The View to appear on their show to defend herself, and they said no.
Yeah.
Because they're going to say things like this where they know that she would say, okay, obviously that's not what I meant. Like, she's speaking to a community of people who know that you have to exercise prudence when having children. And she's speaking to them and saying, have more than you can afford. It's kind of like it's a turn of phrase. But they're taking it completely out of context and saying that she's encouraging people to just be irresponsible in general.
Yeah, and I think if they had looked into Isabel Brown more, or maybe had her on the show, then they would have understood that. And like you said, they denied Isabel's request to come on. So this is their response from the View crew. They say, good to hear from you. They talked about, they meaning the View host, they talked about Isabel today, and we'll definitely keep in mind. We're booked up the next few weeks, but I'll keep her on our radar. Thanks.
Like they couldn't make an exception.
Especially with it blowing up, you would think that this would give them more traction, and it's very trending right now. So you would think they want to talk about it more, but no, they don't want to bring her on. So
yeah, there's an acknowledgement there that they wouldn't be able to defend themselves, because so many of their arguments here just have no basis in anything that's like. There's no evidence for what they're saying, basically.
And they're so angry.
So angry. And they very rarely use statistics or polls or surveys, trends, and that sort of thing. They're kind of just making these generalized statements.
Yeah, no, I think that's, like you said, we don't know where these numbers are coming from, so it's a little hard. But I can say from my experience, I'm one of 7 kids. My family made it work. My mom worked in the beginning. But then she became a stay-at-home mom when it was me and my older brother. So she only worked for the first 2 kids and then homeschooled after that. So we just had one provider in the home, which was my dad. And they made it work, which, yeah, is just an example of how that can work.
Yeah, and Catherine Pekalik, who's one of our speakers, and she's on our advisory board, talks about reorienting the mindset around children so that you equate children with wealth. And if children are wealth and children are the true treasure, then you would be willing to sacrifice what are considered more earthly comforts in order to have children. And scripture tells us that children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be put to shame. So it's the Bible tells us that children really are a blessing. And does that mean you should have 20 kids and sell your house and not be able to feed them? Of course not. And that's not what Isabel's claiming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not what she's claiming at all. And I think going back to my personal experience, I'm the second oldest of 7. So I grew up watching, you know, my mom be pregnant and my mom have my little siblings. And it's just so beautiful to see because each one, and you can see this very clearly, each one she individually cares about. She wasn't just having them for the numbers. And having all those siblings made us like not go on European vacations and not do certain things or eat out as much as other people. But that was totally worth it. And another thing that The View was specifically slamming Isabel for was they were like, she has a 1-year-old kid who sleeps all the time. Just wait till you have more and then you'll be in hot water, Isabel, basically is what they were saying. I'm paraphrasing. And from my experience as an older sister to 5 brothers is when they're 1, they do not sleep all the time. Mm-hmm. That is when they're moving and grooving. They're crawling. I mean, they take naps, but they're crawling. They're learning to walk at that point. So them just saying to Isabel, like, she sleeps all the time is kind of an insult to Isabel as a mother, too, and the work that she puts in. Mm-hmm. Especially, you know, how she's balancing both being a conservative voice in the movement and being a mother. And that kind of gives her a unique perspective to have both going on right now. And yeah, just from my experience, growing up in a big family was like the biggest blessing in my life ever. Aww. I love my siblings so much. Like to this day, we were all super, super close. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something else that Catherine McCulloch says is the best blessing you can give your children is another sibling. That's so sweet, because I just grew up with one brother, and we were talking about this recently, like kind of the dynamic is you're very one-on-one. So we were very one-on-one growing up, and now we have a really good relationship. But I feel like when there's that group dynamic, you almost have FOMO for what your family's doing. Like in a small family, you're like, oh, okay, there's only 3 people who are going to do this thing, and you want to spend time with them, but you don't have the whole I'm really missing out on the group is all doing something. It's like kind of the same thing that happens with school. You're like, oh, my group of friends is doing that. Or I like every time I talk to someone with a big family, they're like, oh, I really hope I can go home for whatever holiday because all my siblings are going to be there, and they would be left out if they weren't there. And they love being together, which is cool. Especially like as adults, it's really fun to see children interact like that, and you have this huge support system around you too. So that's been cool, because your brother's like all ages right now. So what has it been like for you to grow up in a house where there's like basically always a baby around? Like, how do you think that has shaped you?
Yeah, I mean, now my youngest brother is 9, so I haven't had a little baby in a while as a sibling. But I remember growing up, it was like every time a kid hit like 2 or 3, then my mom and dad would do a really cute announcement for the kids and be like, we're having another baby. Like sometimes it was in the advent calendar. One time my mom figured out she was pregnant around Valentine's Day, so she wrote us like a big Valentine's Day poem from the baby. But we didn't know it was like, we were like, whose perspective is this from? It's like she like wrote, I'm really excited to meet you all, and we're like, who? And we were so dumb. she's like
you're like on the 6th baby. She's like, guys, why don't you get it?
Exactly. So I just remember those times being so fun. And then just they would go to the hospital when it was my grandparents would come watch us, and getting to meet a new sibling was like the happiest. Like every time I just got more and more happy, like going to the hospital and meeting the new baby. Like it was just the most surreal, amazing thing ever, that this baby was once in my mom not too long ago, and then all of a sudden they're here and you have like a whole new person to your family. And obviously I haven't had kids yet, but just that experience of growing up and living in that environment where there was like constantly a baby, and just the miracle of that is like it kind of shaped everything for me to be. I mean, that sounds dramatic, but that's really what it was. And watching my mom and my siblings, like when there was a new baby, everything was about them. So it was kind of everyone being selfless, even the little one, like the one right before the baby, there's like the 2 or 3-year-old, because we all had such a sense of awe and like respect for this like new little thing, then the 3-year-old would be like, oh, like this is something important, this is something lovable.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really cool.
That is really interesting how, because I mean, obviously siblings are a big model to the younger siblings. So for you to model like valuing another baby as a huge blessing, they grow up with that same mindset. And I think one of the biggest concerns that I hear from, critics of big families is, well, if you have 10 kids, one of them is going to be wayward, or 2 of them are going to, like walk away from their family, or, go do drugs or whatever, because there's not enough attention to go around. Like, you can only give your attention to a certain number of kids. So outside of the affordability issue, I think that's a really common argument. So I'm just basically interviewing you because you have a big family. I think it's fascinating. So what do you say to that? Do you feel like your parents, their time was split, like their love was split, there wasn't enough love to go around, or how would you answer those critics?
Those people that, at least from my experience, I did not feel like my parents' love was stretched at all between the children, and I didn't feel like I had to fight for their attention or be like, mom, like this is what I'm doing, like pay attention to me, like put down the baby, like pay attention to me. Like that wasn't ever like I don't even think that once crossed my mind. And that's me growing up in a family of 7, second oldest. So that, yeah, like I said, that hasn't once crossed my mind. So they did a really good job of just paying attention to each individual kid. And I can say that even now too, because my youngest brother is 7, so they're still doing it with the younger guys. But they pay attention to each child's interest, each of their hobbies, and like really supported them in that early on, and been like, oh, that's super cool. Like let me like my brother right now is really into like making bread, which is really funny. So my mom just took him 2 days ago. He's like, let's go to the store and get like the special flour that you need, or the yeast or whatever. So they did a really good job just honing in on each kid and making them feel loved by just paying attention to their interests, which isn't that hard if you know your kid. And just pay attention to them.
Yeah, that really makes a lot of sense. And you do have those gaps. I mean, obviously, like an infant is going to require the most attention. And then I think like those natural gaps allows each parent to kind of take their unique role. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I would imagine is that, obviously the mom is breastfeeding. Like, no one else is going to be able to take care of that infant like she is. And then the dad might be, spending the most time with the 3-year-old who needs a lot of help. And then, I mean, by the time a child is 5 or 6, like there's a lot more independence that I think comes in. So I would imagine that it would be the case where like both parents are kind of on the youngest and then the olders are helping out. And this is this last like interrogation I'm going to do of you in big family, but for the older sibling, because I know you and your brother are the 2 oldest, another concern people have is, well, that forces the oldest sibling to be the parent. Did you ever feel that pressure? Did you enjoy that? Or was that not really something that happened in your family?
Yeah, I actually get that a lot from all my friends. And I will say I have met girls that are like, I feel like I was the second or the third parent, and I had to step in a lot and, help out. I did have to step in a lot and help out, but I never felt like a third parent ever.
Yeah.
Like, just because I know how to change a diaper doesn't mean I was abused as a child into having to be the third parent.
Yeah.
Like, I helped out, but I was never like, oh, like, mom and dad don't got this. I have to help out.
Yeah.
And my mom did do a good job of that. Specifically, like, she would tell me and being like, if there's ever a problem with disciplining, like, just bring them to me. Like, that's not your job. And if there's ever danger or safety, bring them to me. Like, if I was helping out or babysitting while they went on a date night or whatever, she's like, don't hesitate to call. Like, this is not all on you. And she made that very clear from the get-go.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think the issue, and this is probably mostly a first world Western issue, is that we think like children and teenagers have a right to do whatever they want to do all the time. But if you look back in history, I mean, think back to like ancient biblical times where big families were really prevalent. It was 100% expected that the child would help around the house, that they would help care for the younger siblings. A lot of time it was farming, agriculture. you had to do those things in order to survive. So the problem is that now we have so many luxuries that when a child is born, there's the assumption that by the time they're 12, they'll be able to get to do whatever they want all the time. And I think like what you're saying is perfect, is we need to break that mindset and say, well, you know, a 14-year-old shouldn't have to do anything, but instead say a 14-year-old should be expected to help out because they're part of a family unit, but they shouldn't be the disciplinarian or, you know, the one that is dealing with these really like parent level decisions. So I think that's where we need to restructure our mindset.
Yeah, I agree. And the phrase family unit was used a lot growing up too. Like if one of us was being like, I don't know, annoying or selfish in some way, it'd be like, well, like we're all a part of a family unit. Like how can we, this is something that they specifically said to me one time. I remember like, how can we support you in this family unit with this thing that you're going through, or this thing that you really, really want to do, but maybe we can't do right now. How can we support that in a different way? Like they would specifically say lines to me like that, which I think really shaped me growing up. Like looking back, the amount of wisdom that they imparted with, I don't even think, maybe they were super aware of it or not, or maybe it just came naturally to them. Just the amount of wisdom they gave me growing up, and having these like one-liners that were really just help shape my mind is incredible, I think. Another thing too that I think is helpful to bring up is that young people now have this pressure to like grow up, move away from your parents, have that American independence, you know, all these things. But if you have a loving family and grandparents or potential grandparents that would want to help and be involved in the lives of your kids, then that's like, I don't know, a really important thing to consider when you're like growing up and like getting ready to move out. Like, I know for one, like my grandparents were very, very involved on my dad's side. They were the local ones. So whenever my mom and dad were in the hospital having another baby, like my grandparents would come over and watch us for like 2 or 3 days, and they were just such sweethearts, and we all loved them, and they loved us, and it was always the best when grandma and grandpa could come over. And it was so fun, and my grandparents genuinely liked being around us. And I think a lot of grandparents like want to see their grandkids more. So there's a support network that young people are missing if they like move really far away from their parents, because this whole lie of like, you know, big families don't get enough support, or you won't have enough support, or there's no one around to help you, when you literally have, you know, kind of like built-in helpers that want to hang out with your kids. That's something that was like beautiful to me growing up too.
Right. There's nothing inherently virtuous about moving away from your family. Like if there's a reason for you to move, then go ahead and do that. But like growing up, I always had imagined that I would move either south or west. And I moved west like 10 miles maybe. Actually, probably no, like 4 miles. And so my parents are very local. My husband's parents are local. His sister lives here. My grandparents all live here, aunt and uncle, and it's the best. Like just a couple of weeks ago, I nannied my cousins while my aunt and uncle were out of town. And that's so cool to be able to do that. And now their kids are like, oh, we can't wait until you have kids so we can do this for you. And that's how it should be. And that's, looking into history, that's how it always was. Like you don't have to move away from your family. And it's one thing to like, a lot of grandparents don't want to raise kids again, and they don't want to be doing childcare every single day. But a lot of them want to see their grandkids once a week or more, you know, and want to be able to participate in that, especially when there's a new baby around and they get to hang out with the older kids. And I don't know, I just think that there's a lot of virtue in being around family and having a big family, whether that means a lot of siblings or just having a big extended family who are all in the same area, because really nothing can replace that.
Yeah, my dad and his parents were the ones I was referring to when I was saying my grandparents. My dad grew up in a family of 9 children, and they all, up until like 2 years ago, one moved to South Carolina, and one moved to West Virginia, but still pretty close. But up until like a couple years ago, they all stay within a 1-hour radius of my grandparents' house. And that's the house they grew up in. So my grandparents kind of set their roots there and are still in that house. And they all just stay within an hour radius, which is such a testament to how they raise their kids too, that they all wanted to stay close by and near and all that kind of stuff. And then for me growing up, once a month we would go over to my grandparents' house, and all the cousins, I have a lot of cousins because my dad's one of 9, all the cousins on that side of the family and all my dad's brothers and sisters would come to the grandparents' house once a month, and we would celebrate all the birthdays that happened in that month.
That's so fun.
Which was so fun, which would be probably
10.
Yeah, or 8 or something like that, because there's so many humans.
Yeah.
So it'd be a kind of a communal birthday party, but also just a reason to get together every month. So yeah, we'd take turns bringing food or whatever, and then the family that had the birthday would bring a cake, so there'd be 8 cakes based on who had a birthday in that month. And there'd be my new itty bitty cousin who's 2 years old celebrating her birthday, and the next round of singing would be my uncle who was turning 40.
Aww.
It was just so cool to have that back to back and be able to celebrate all the birthdays in that month. And I think that was really unique too, just because everyone stayed within a 1-hour radius and had their kids close by, and my grandparents stayed in that house and were able to upkeep it and all these things. So those were really, really special growing up. And I thought I remember as a kid, I would go over to my friends and be oh, how are your cousin parties? We always called them cousin parties. My mom would be all right, everyone get in the car, we're going to a cousin party. And I thought as kids, I thought everyone had one of those. Turns out not everyone has cousin parties. So people are missing out.
Common misconception.
Yeah, I just think that's so funny. It was so good that I thought it was a normal thing, but in reality it wasn't, and it was just a huge blessing. So
that's amazing. I love that. And I think that is a blessing and a gift, and people should strive for that if they want to. Mm-hmm. So we will wrap up there, but we just want to say, Isabel Brown, we support you. We hope the women on The View will reconsider their views, and we will see you all on the next one.